At 6:04 a.m., a quiet street turned into a courtroom. A woman in a sun visor pressed a crooked red tag onto my brand new gate and said, 72 hours, Mr. Hart, or we escalate. By lunch, my pool fob was dead. A tow warning sat under my wiper, and an email called me. Non-compliant 4 times. Like that word could sand the wood itself smooth. My name is Caleb Hart. I moved to Brookhaven Trails because it looked like Saturdays could last forever here. Dogs, sprinklers, kids in crooked helmets. And I built that cypress gate the way you build a good breath, slow and square, a stain called river walnut that looks like coffee right before the cream, the kind of color that makes a porch feel like it remembers you. Then the sun came up and Lydia Crane, HOA President Lemon Cleaner on her clipboard like perfume, announced not greeted. Section 8. See aesthetic cohesion, and took 3 photos from my grass without asking one. Wide one, close one leaning over the top rail like she owned the hinge. I tried polite first because my mother taught me that. Is there an appeal form I should fill out? But Lydia was already turning, we don't do appeals for obvious violations, and that line obvious to who stuck like a splinter I couldn't see. I took my own pictures, front, back, the angle of that tag. She stuck crooked on purpose, because if trouble is coming, you give it a paper trail. Then I did what a man does when his hands want to go loud, and he promises them they don't have to. I read the rule book, every calm sentence that turns sharp. If you touch it wrong, and in there, hidden like a light switch in a dark garage. I found the clause that made my pulse steady. If the Architectural Review Committee fails to respond within 28 days, a submitted project is deemed approved and on my refrigerator. There was a green certified mail card stamped 36 days ago. You know what I mean. The next morning, Lydia came back with backup. Brent, the treasurer, with a nervous smile, and Paula from the ARC holding a tape measure like a sword she hadn't trained on, announcing to the street, height compliance inspection, like it was Sunday service. They set a step ladder that wobbled on flat concrete. The tape snapped back and left a bright line on Paula's wrist. Lydia pretended not to see and peeled a second red tag. Color not within heritage, neutrals reflective in direct sun. And I laughed a little, tired, more than funny. Reflective like, sunlight is reflective. She smiled the way people smile when they think you'll understand after it hurts enough. 72 hours, then drove off fast enough to leave attitude on the curb. That afternoon I got a yellow slip about driveway parking, even though my truck has slept there. Since the day I moved in, my landscaper texted me that the HOA suggested he pause service until my issues were resolved. And a stranger in wraparound sunglasses jiggled my side gate and told me he was authorized to check measurements. I filmed from the porch and said the word trespass very clear. He left with a shrug that said he doesn't hang his own Christmas lights. And somewhere between anger and fear, I realized this wasn't an argument about wood. It was an argument about lines. I went ally hunting because standing alone looks noble on posters and foolish in hearings on. Jensen next door, retired school counselor, eyes like a weather report, told me board planning huddles have been happening without proper notice. Ralph across the street on tractor, forearms like cured oak, looked at my posts and said, "You're at 6 feet clean. Those caps don't count. If they do half, this street is illegal." Then walked me to Sycamore Court and Elm Way, where 2 almost identical gates were approved last year. Darker stain. Same height. "Bring pictures," he said. "Bring dates. Don't bring attitude. They'll supply that for you. So I printed everything. Screenshots of the group. Rumor calling my gate. An electrified hazard. The tow warning the landscaper text. The photos of those two gates. And I took that green card off my fridge and ran my thumb across the date like a coin. 36 days deemed approved rule. First heat, last. I requested a formal hearing and CC'd city zoning and the city attorney's inbox. Not because I thought the attorney would show, but because subject lines are flashlights and bad policy prefers the dark. Then I called Gina Park, an attorney. A friend recommended paid for one focused hour, where she sanded my sentences until they were smooth enough to stand on. Lead with the rule, not the insult. She said, win fast, sleep sooner. And I believed her because my bones were already tired. 3 nights later, Lydia hosted a sidewalk information session outside her garage. Folding chairs, Bluetooth speaker, pretending to be a PA. A slideshow balanced on duct tape and willpower. She wore a community-first sash, like it was prom for Bylaws. We are here to reclaim the character of Brookhaven trails, vanity projects, and danger safety. She clicked to a photo of my gate shot from inside a shrub, circled a patch of sunlight, and called it reflective hazard. And I stood in the maple's shade, waited for the end, like a man waiting his turn at the DMV. Then raised my hand. Section 5.4 gives members 5 minutes, and I planned to use all 5. She tried to cut me at minute 2. I said, no ma'am, my time is 5. Steady, not loud. And I led with the rule. I submitted my plan 36 days ago. The IRC did not respond under Article 4. 6. It's deemed approved. I have the certified mail receipt here. City zoning confirms decorative caps are not counted. I am not asking for special treatment. I am asking for the rule you use on me to be the rule you use on everyone. And something shifted, not a mutiny, just that small neighborhood exhale. When people remember they like fairness more than drama, a tall guy in the cul-de-sac muttered, if the rule says 28 days. And Lydia tried the word discretion, like it was a magic trick. Aesthetic cohesion allows discretion. And I said, discretion only works if you aim at the same direction every time. Otherwise, it's taste with a name tag. And somewhere, a grill lid clanked, and somebody laughed through their nose. The community center smelled like all community centers. Coffee dust, lemon floor cleaner, folding chairs, a projector hum. A long table where people practice not being people. Lydia's gavel sounded expensive and fragile as she read, non-compliant structure at 114 Willow Bend, height and color. I asked to present and promised to take 3 minutes, which made the room go quiet. Because certainty is rare on weeknights, I laid out my exhibits like a mechanic lays out wrenches. City zoning email from Inspector Tanya Morales, confirming code compliance, and that caps don't count. Certified mail receipt dated 36 days before any notice. Photographs of 2 approved look-alike gates. Screenshots showing my amenities suspended before any hearing, and a board message that literally said, we should make an example, so others don't start creative projects. I looked at the paper, not Lydia, because the paper was brave for me that day. Then Inspector Morales stood and said, from the city's perspective, the structure complies, no enforcement requested. And a sound moved through the room, embarrassment trying to turn into relief without anyone noticing. Brent flipped the bylaws and found the 28-day clause. Paula said, it's here. Like the words had been hiding under the staples, Lydia reached for discretion. Again, louder this time, and I answered the way Gina trained me. Discretion isn't a weapon, it's a standard. You apply evenly. Then the chair, quiet man, calm, throat, clear, said, Motion to rescind. Fines, reinstate amenities, and vacate the violation. Hands rose like wheat. Leaning the same way carried, and before the air could reassemble itself. Ed from the landscaping committee found his spine and said, "Motion to remove President Crane for procedural misconduct and call a special election." And if you think that felt like a movie, yeah, that happened. Carried. I walked home. Not triumphant, just lighter, like someone had set down a bag. I didn't know I was carrying. Inspector Morales met me at my curb, studied the tag. Like a doctor studies an X-ray. X-ray peeled it an inch at a time, so the adhesive wouldn't scar the grain. A pink ghost lingered, and I rubbed it away with my thumb until the wood looked like itself again. The latch clicked, and the world sounded like a hinge. Doing its job, and that could be the end. Neat bow. Man read the rules. Man kept his dignity. Man won. Cut to black, but real life loves a tag. After the credits, a flyer showed up about a nuisance hearing for amplified audio and threatening signage. No names, just a shape cut to fit whoever stands up next. And later, I saw Lydia walking without her sash. We didn't speak, we are still neighbors, and that will always be messier than a vote. People ask why I fought, why not? Sand the top rail and pick a safer stain, and be done. And I think about my mother teaching me a handshake firm. Not to win, just to be. Square boundaries are like that. A fence is a sentence that says, "This part is mine, and I share it gladly when we're kind, but when rules get used." Like bats, neighbors get small, and shadows get big. I didn't out-argue anyone. I stacked paper until fairness weighed more than volume. I gave quiet people something they could point at and say yes to, and maybe that is all most justice is. Not fireworks, just a click of a latch and coffee that tastes like coffee again. So tell me, what you think, was I right? To fight in public, or should I have shaved the top rail and moved on? HOAs protecting value, or training us to mistake clipboards for virtue? Where's the line between keeping a place lovely and making it small? If you've ever been tagged, fined, or sidelined by a rule used. Wrong, drop your story below. Argue with me if you need to share this with a neighbor who could use a reminder that fairness isn't loud, it's steady. And if you want more messy, true street stories, hit subscribe. And let's talk about the lines we draw and how we keep them human.